Hello everyone, welcome to our channel CareersTalk. My name is Sunan Sharma. I'm an agile consultant based in Netherlands, and at CareersTalk we invite industry experts from around the world to share their real-world experience with all of us. And today we are going to discuss Scrum Master interview question shared by a member of our USA WhatsApp group who recently attended an interview at one of the big four firms in April recently. And to help us, we are delighted to welcome DipaShree joining us from USA. She is an agile program manager, project manager, coach with over 18 plus years of IT experience. And we also had a pleasure of doing a couple of great sessions with her 3 years ago. Please don't do that again. Please come a little bit more often. So time really flies. And friends, to avoid missing any of our future session, please subscribe to our channel. And if you appreciate our quality content, which I'm sure you will, smash that like button and share your thoughts in the comment section. So without further delay, let's get started. Hello, Deepa, and thank you for joining us today. Over to you, Deepa.
Hey, hi, Sunan. Thank you very much for having me again at Careers Talk. And to all the viewers, thank you for watching this. And we can get started, Sunan.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's start. So the very first question is, tell me about a situation where stakeholders or your team members wanted to bypass some Scrum processes. So how did you uphold the framework without damaging the relationship? Yeah, Deepa.
Okay. So when somebody gets asked this question, basically they want to see because see nobody likes change, right? Like when we ourselves as human forget agile, nobody likes change, and because the biggest thing is when we ask people to change, there is a fear of losing control. We got to understand that. So this is the first basics that you have to understand, and as a change agent, as a scrum master, as a coach for or any transformation consultant role that you are playing, you are bound to bring in changes and there will be resistance, and this is what they want to check. How do you go about bringing a change, right? So just to answer your question, I'll share my experience, Sunant, whether it is directly I have been involved or how I have been requested by my fellow colleagues in the industry to, we always do that. We always reach out to people and ask their opinion, and that is what we call the third party inspection kind of thing, right? Hey, help me, I'm in a situation, can you think it from a unbiased view? All right. So that's what I'll try to do to answer your question here. So whenever there is a situation, so one of the biggest, I think most of the Scrum Masters will relate that when your team is in a high performing zone, right? There is a tendency, and it's a very technically efficient team. There's a tendency they will start skipping stand-ups. This is the first and the basic, miss people start. And as a scrum master, let me also put it this way, that if you use your power, your authority, and say, hey, you have to come, right? You try to bring in control that no, you can't miss. uh, your team will comply, they will come. But what would be very evident is there will be a visible resentment, sarcasm, and disengagement. And if you feel this, that yes, this happens, people just revolt, it is true because you are using control. Okay. So it's important that whenever anywhere, like in this case I'm taking the example whether the team was skipping stand-ups, it could be anybody in the org, right? Or in your team who is challenging some kind of, or saying, hey, this is not needed. As a change agent, you got to understand that it's a signal, it's not defiance. They are not s- going against you or going against the process. It's just that they are not seeing value in it. Okay. So if you use your what do I say, your power, your control, the purpose of the event is lost, right? So you are not going to, you will just have people coming in doing a checkbox, and you can say it's a watermelon matrix, everybody's attending stand-ups, wherein it's all red from inside and all green from outside. So what do we do? So the first things first, right? Rather than handling it from a place of authority or compliance or control, try to lead from a place of inquiry and autonomy. And what do I mean by that? You have to first understand the why behind why they don't want to why behind their withdrawal, why they don't want to attend it. Is it that they are not getting value out of it? So use your curiosity and not your control. Okay. uh, I would have I actually I did that. I Because they're all very accomplished developers, seasoned. There's no problem in delivery. So I just wanted to know why. What is the why, right? Why you don't want to do it, or how can we make this particular event helpful for you, valuable for you? All right. And and the reasons could be different. Like in my case, it was that they were all distributed. I had teams from China and US, so obviously that overlapping was not there. The timing of the event was not that suitable. And so it happens that it's not a very convenient time. It could be because it's not generating enough value, because not everybody is participating. There could be n number of reasons. So the understanding of the why is very important. And I take Scrum or Agile, right? Like, or any other, like for example, Scrum. Scrum is a framework, right? It's not a formula. So adaptation is agility. So if at all, through all my discovery, through all my sessions with the team, I get to know that it is that yeah, something is not working for them. I will try to introduce options for them, not just mandates, right? Like it could be check-ins through Slack, it could be walking stand-ups, it could be change and adapt so that it suits the team. But remember one thing: you got to reframe the purpose, uh, not just the process. So uh, always uphold alignment, collaboration, and commitment. That is very, very important. And try to figure these things, or pitch in these things in the team working agreements, right? And have a periodic reviews of your team working agreement, so that it's helpful. And as a scrum master, I think also try and show the team, it's important that these alignments are helpful. How do you do that? By probably chalking out the matrix, that how many blockers got cleared, how many bugs got reduced, how many things we are, how we are accelerating. And that is up to you. The data is with you. How do you want to show it to the team to feel that yes, this there is a value when alignment improves, is something in your hand. So I think that's all, Sunan, I would do.
Wonderful, Deepa, for that elaborated answer. So really great how you have covered all the points. Wonderful. Okay, let's move on to our next question. So next question is about retrospective. So can you describe any challenging retrospective which you facilitated, and like what went wrong and what you learned from it? That's very important.
Hmm. So this one is very special because this was in my first engagement as a Scrum Master. Right. So always when you are doing, the first failures are always very special, because you feel that I'm so prepared, I am doing it all right. Why did I fail? Right. And we can't accept failures ourselves. You forget others fail. So this was a retrospective I was facilitating, not my first retrospective, but my first failure as a retrospective. So I had recently started my role as a scrum master. It was a banking engagement, and we had a failed release, right? We had to roll back the release over the weekend, and post that, this was the first you know uh, retrospective. I went with the usual, my specific format, which I had prepared and have been running all my. I think I had ran around 5 retrospectives already, and I used the same format, right? And trust me, the situation escalated so bad because the emotions were really high in the team. It went into blame game. that it was not, it was, it was you versus me and kind of thing, where people went on blaming each other. You missed this. So it was a lot of personal attacks happening. And there was sarcasm, there was defensiveness. And what happened was, I could see it in front of my eyes, the team safety eroded, right? And the retro failed to yield the insight it should have been. Okay, so it was in fact, I felt at that moment when I was there, I could not pitch in. Maybe I was too inexperienced in handling these kind of conflict situations. And of course, when I was looking, and when I look back now, it the format was too mechanical, right? For considering the emotional state of the team. So yeah, it did not go very well. And I did not think before running it, right? What could be? So one biggest learning is that retrospectives are the most powerful events for a scrum master. And you as a scrum master need to know how and which format to be used, knowing the situation of your team. So in my case, what happened was, see, in this particular case, how would have done it differently today, if I have to say, is my team was high on emotions, right? And just think about it. I am married and I have a husband. I am frustrated, let's say, for with work, and I go back home. uh, Undoubtedly I'm going to give my husband a huge share of my frustration, I'm sure. Right? So similarly, when a team who has just completed had a failure, right? Nobody likes failure. And then when you come back to the team, like for a retro, they are high on emotions, they have not vented it out yet. So as a scrum master, I today would ensure that I I design my retrospective in a way that the emotions should first come out, and they feel okay before we start talking about facts, right? And improvements. So it's very, very important. So there are a lot of utilities today available. um, One thing which is very, very common is, I'm sure you guys must be knowing about mad sad glad kind of retro, right? It helps you to surface your emotions first, right? And then you shift to your solution. So that's very important. Or I could have done something like check-in circle, right? How are you feeling kind of thing. Because once you vent it out, then you are sane, then you will start thinking. Okay. So there are various kind of tools and utilities available today. One is core quadrants, emotions wheel. There is team mood canvas. I'm just calling out these things that you can just your viewers can actually check and see how to use them. But it's important to bring in that kind of take the let the team take out their emotions first before they come and talk. um, this is also there are some other tools which are available. We call it heard, seen, respected kind of check-ins. You can use the liberating structures like what, so what, now what, you know or the trace for deeper insights. Those are something that can be leveraged. And always remember that safety is cannot be an agenda item. It is the basic foundation. If your team doesn't feel safe, if they don't have psychological safety, it's not a healthy situation to happen. And retrospectives to me are not just for process improvement. They are also healing rituals for the team, right? So when the emotions run high, and it will happen, no matter how mature the team is, the real leadership test is, can you slow down enough to listen before you start fixing it, right? So this is my biggest learning, Sunand, I will say.
Wonderful, Deepa. Great. All these techniques which you have mentioned, I'm sure like all of our viewers will love them. They will Google it or they will go to ChatGPT for sure. Okay, wonderful. Let's move on. So now this one is interesting. So let's say in your past experience, is it ever happened that you dealt with a team that was like technically cross functional on paper but not in practice? So what are the struggles and the challenges which you have faced, and more importantly, like how did you build true cross functionality among those team members? Yeah.
Now, this is so important because we always talk about if you want to build an agile team, they have to be cross-functional, right? And what do we mean by cross-functional? We mean that everybody should be, all the skills should be there in the team to solve a particular backlog item which is there to be solved or to be completed. So one very important thing, and again this comes with practice, and and of course in general in the industry the agility, the agile expertise has also improved, we all know today. So one of the things which I saw somewhere about 3 years back, right, when I was in one of the engagement, um, uh, we had a cross functional team on paper, right? And I mentioned this explicitly because we had all the key roles and present, right? But within the team also, so when we say a team is cross functional, right, on paper, okay, all the roles are present, but what really the cross functional element talks about is when you have when your collaboration is fluent, right? And we had a situation where I had a data services team, right? You understand, we had a BA, we had a dev, we had a QA, and what happened was all these roles were there, but they were not working together, right? When I say together means you have to ensure that we are leveraging each other's strength, and that was not happening. The developers used to coded the specs, then the QA would write the test cases too late, I would say. And the BAs, they didn't attend the refinement sessions. Now, some of your followers might say, "Hey, agile team do not have QA and BA and things like that." Oh, okay, right? They don't. But in my team, they were present, right? These roles were present. We had a BA, we had a QA, and but they were not. So they are also part of the dev team, right? Technically, then, but they were not. They were not in sync. You can make that out. So obviously, I cannot just go ahead and say, "Hey, why you are not doing it like this?" And why you are. See, that's a very if you like I always say, if you pick up a stick and start hitting people, people will do, but that will be half-hearted, and you will not get what you really want, right? But so what I did was I did one, and I don't know if this is an agile practice or not. What I did actually was I did a roll on a post-it, which means I called all of them. I said, "Hey, just define and write down what do you think is actually your role, you know, and so what is it that you think is your role?" So they wrote, and then I coached them. Okay, you know what? In agile, this is what is expected. Okay, and I did not see what they had written. And I asked them, based on what I'm telling you now in Agile, what you are expected to do, can you tell me what is the gap that you foresee? And it was not driven by me that I am finding out the gaps. It was the team, these people, these roles who identified what's the gap. And we came up with something called as role clarification canvas, right? Post this, I explained to them, I coached them on the 3 go refinement model, right, where they all collaboratively come together, groom a story before it gets estimated, right? Before the refinement, you get the clarification along with the PO. So when you do a joint kind of when you have a shared goals, right, you break silos much faster than shared tools. So so this is how we started. Then uh, also in this particular team, the Jira board and all were segregated, that based on assignees, right, based on roles. You would the swim lanes were such configured that it is based on people who, like, which role is doing and what are the stories. I said, no, let's not do it this way. Let's do it epic wise, right? Like when you create the Jira swim lanes based on Epic. So you get to know what are the user stories we are doing, and all of them are co-owning and jointly doing the same. So this was very important. I also did one thing. Once I saw there was some maturity in them grasping the concept, I facilitated a skill inventory mapping, which also helped them to, like, when you have leveraging the swarming techniques, the mob programming, promoting pairing, because that way is what happened that, okay, this is my primary skill. I don't have the other skill. You don't have to be an expert, but just be together so that we are moving in a way that we are achieving our end goal better. Yeah. So this is what I did.
Wonderful, Deepa, and sharing that real experience. So I'm sure like a lot of people will be get benefit out of it. Wonderful. Okay, let's move on. So next question is again little tricky. So let's say your leadership demanded some detail upfront estimate for let's say upcoming project. So
Mhm.
how you are going to manage these kinds of expectations with your delivery managers and some senior partners while
Mhm.
staying agile? So it's a tricky situation. People want some sort of milestones or the estimation that okay how much time it's going to take or how much resources going to take. So how you are going to manage these kind of expectations, Deepa?
Tricky question, and so, and I think everybody faces this, no? I mean, I'm sure if we are in a leadership position in future where we have to run this multi-million dollar engagements, right? So we also would need to know. So I have actually gone through these situations so often that it feels like I don't know if it is the right answer or not, right? But I always use empathy to first understand why my leadership needs it, right? um, this is very very important. So there was this recent engagement I was involved in where leadership needed this information for budget approvals, for because they were also being pushed to provide some estimates upfront so that they can at least provide some commitment to somebody, right? Now it's important. Of course, we have been talking with the leadership and all that, hey, it should be the forecast, it helps you with decision making, commitments will limit your discovery, etc. But they were looking for some commitment. Okay. So honestly speaking, it's very very important to understand that, to educate your leaders that estimates are not promises, they are conversation starter, right? Because that tells you that today at this moment whatever I know, based on what is known, based on my experience, this is what I think. It's not a commitment, it's not a promise, right? And then it's the job of an agile leader to now turn these conversations that we have started on estimation into informed bets. And I use the word bet and not rigid contracts, right? So how do you do that? How do you coach your leaders? Correct. So in one of my engagement, like I was talking, we used the cone of uncertainty to educate them, right? Like, hey, as we will progress, right, my estimates will get more reliable over time. Okay. I also propose that fine, I understand you are looking for some kind of numbers, you are looking for some kind of a tangible thing that by when I will be. So let's do one thing. Let's propose. I proposed a dual track approach, right? So do a discovery track, try and validate the complexity and identify the unknowns, determine the technical spikes that would be needed, and then we would be following it with a rolling wave estimation model, right, using story point ranges and confidence levels. That this is a concept which I learned in SAFE, right? So when we started doing this, I also recommended the use of lean portfolio management, because that would, help uh, to focus on capacity based funding versus scope based planning, right? So that was also done. Then I also introduced value stream budgeting and OKRs to shift the focus from when it will be done to what are we achieving, and that's a very good mind shift change that you can recommend. Yeah. So also there are uh, uh, you have to understand, and my experience with my leadership has always told me that the leadership is always anxious about commitment visibility and not necessary fake states, right? So I also learned that into that uh, you have to stand as a good partner to your leader, that hey, we are into it together, you are not alone, we'll do it together. And if you can in throughout your journey build that relationship with your leadership, that hey, uh, I will keep giving you that transparency after every quarter or every, leaders don't want it on a weekly basis, they need it quarterly, how we are progressing towards our goal, what value are we generating, what are our detractors that we are getting. I think they will support you in the implementation, because they also understand that today with the diverse technology changes, etc., this is the most feasible way of progressing.
Wonderful, Deepa. Thank you for sharing all these different techniques which you have used. I just take 2 minutes of the time. I just want to also mention a couple of things which I am doing with a lot of different projects, because I was
Mm-hmm,
also the part of a lot of different bids, and so of course we need to give some sort of estimation when we are getting some large and big projects. So there I am using, you might be heard about it, function point analysis. So that's
mm-hmm,
FPA we call it, and it used to popular. It is in Europe. It's popular somehow, but then this is something which you can also use, and this is independent of the technology. This estimation, so it's just based on the functionality
fantastic.
which you are going to deliver to the user, and it's not
Mm-hmm,
line of code or specific technology, but then it's a complete project in itself. It's not
mm-hmm,
going to be the easy thing, but I'm just
true.
telling because we are talking about
Mm-hmm,
estimation. So I just want to tell the audience, if they want, they can Google it. What is function point analysis or fast function point analysis? Deloitte and a lot of big companies used to do that. So I'm
mm-hmm,
also using it now from last couple of years, I would say, last two
mm-hmm,
years. That's something also, if you are doing estimation, if you want some early forecast. And again, as you mentioned, the word is forecast, not
true.
like promise. And then there is also something called Monte Carlo analysis.
Yes,
You can
yes.
also use that some
The
other time. So
probability, yeah.
yes, just based on your past data and all,
Mm,
if you have done some sort of project in the past, which I'm sure nowadays everyone have
mm.
those kind of data. So just additional information, nothing else.
Fantastic.
Great. Let's move on to our next question. So it's regarding a sprint goal. So let's say you are working on a sprint, and then you realize that the sprint goal is irrelevant midway through the
Mm.
sprint. So like what sort of decisions were made and who was involved? If you can share, like if something has happened similar with you into the
Mm-hmm.
past, if you can recall and tell us some of the past incidents that will happen, that will be great.
Okay. This is very rare, actually, to be very honest, because I come from service industry. So I have just had one experience where my sprint goal actually got, defunct, I would say. Okay. And imagine I have been in this for quite long. So it, I will say it's a rare occurrence.
Of
And
course.
in my case, it was because of a regulatory change. All right. I'm not calling out the, because I have people will otherwise guess, but yeah, we were midway through one of the iteration in a mobile banking project, and there was a new compliance regulation that was announced, which invalidated the core feature that we were building in that particular sprint, right? So obviously, the sprint goal can never be met if we take off that particular story. So what we did was we had a immediately we called for a triage call with the PO, with our architect, with the SME, and also my business owner, right? Because it was superb, and we also had our RTE in the call, and we did a quick impact analysis, captured what are the affected stories from the ongoing iteration that is impacted by this. Not all the stories were impacted, but these were few of them. There were a significant chunk, I would say. Right. So what we also did was the PO immediately took it to the Scrum of Scrum, discussed that, hey, uh, this is unfortunate, but it's important that we pivot at this point because these won't go through with the current regulatory changes, right? The key decisions that we made was PO officially, cancelled the sprint goal, uh, and we've worked on getting our backlog again reprioritized based on the new regulation. But there were three stories, I believe, that were not impacted, and we used the remaining capacity. It was ongoing. So we completed the user stories which were not impacted, and we spent the rest of the time in exploratory, the technical debt, the spikes for some new stories that we could advance now, all right, because it was planned, and we initiated few refactors, etc., that we could help, right. A few things I will call out is that we did a lot of impact mapping when we did the triage call. We also did one retrospective, right, because it was important, because my team was felt, you don't like it when somebody says, hey, your features are no longer needed. There's an emotional impact, right, because people are, so that's very important. So so we handle the team's frustration and uncertainty with transparency and empathy. That's very, very important. You have to acknowledge, hey, this has happened and this is how it looks, because you cannot let your team be demoralized. Also, what we learned from that, though I have not used it ever so far, but we did also create a sprint exit criteria playbook. Right, that if at all there is a situation in future, these are the things you should do. So that helps. So maybe if at all it comes, and also very, very important. Pivoting mid sprint is not a failure, right? It's agility in action. And you are able to do it only because we are agile, right? It's intentional, it's transparent, and it's co-owned. So as long it is that, it is not a failure. That was a clear message I gave to my team. It's not that you have failed. It's agility in action, and it's gonna happen. So pivot without guilt, right? And also, sprint goals are not sacred. Right, it's not something, oh, we should not touch. But business agility is, the real test isn't how well you follow the plan, but how quickly you realign without burning the trust. That is very, very important, and that is something that should always be upheld, I would say.
Wonderful. And quickly, I'm just able to recall one of my experience. So I was working for one of the telecom giant
Mm,
in Europe, and we
mhm,
are working on a sprint. So in that sprint, we are supposed to download the itemized bill from the new
mm,
portal. That was our sprint goal, and we are into the middle of the sprint, and suddenly that legacy billing system went offline due to
oh,
vendor outage, and API dependencies to fetch the bills were unavailable for us, and there is no
okay.
workaround existed that time. So then we thought, okay, PO and then delivery manager and the tech lead and the architect, they agreed to shift the focus to other backlog items from the upcoming sprint. So we just come up with a new goal to improve the UI and UX for the account overview, and few things like that. And then we kept the front end team focused by mocking the bill API, and
Mm,
meanwhile the back end team pick up the technical defactor, as you also mentioned, right?
uh,
Something which we
mm,
could
mm,
have
mm,
done in that short duration of time.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I mean the portal launch was not delayed, but again, once that billing API came back online, we
Hmm.
have
You could.
done all those integration efforts where we could have make it, but then yeah, that was the incident which happened. So I just thought to just add on quickly
Yeah, it
whatever.
happens, right? Like, I
Yes,
mean, that's true.
great.
Awesome.
So friends, we are halfway through our session, and I would like to remind you that we are, I'm sure, like I'm finding this session very valuable, so do you. So please take a pause to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comment, like what do you think about this session, the way we are, having all these answers and things like that. So when you like, it really helps the YouTube algo to suggest this kind of content to other who may benefit. We often see all these cheap comedy videos and entertainment videos going viral, but this kind of in like significant content which really need which really deserve that kind of viewership is not there, no? So even if you just simply share on LinkedIn or in your Agile or Scrum communities, that will make a big difference. So please, let's also share meaningful content that help our professional community grow. So let's support each other, grow together, and with this appeal, let's move on. So Deepa, the next question is,
Hmm.
can you provide an example where your coaching efforts failed to change the behavior of your team member? And
My
what did
goodness.
you reflect on that afterwards? See, we are talking about failures because those are the most
No, I
difficult things.
understand.
And I understand like why these kind of questions are coming, because they really want to dig into that, individual, like, okay, if someone can celebrate, I would not use the word celebrate, but then if someone can talk about comfortably for their failures, I think then that guy can do anything. So sorry, over to you, Deepa.
Okay. Actually, I was saying, like, okay, oh my goodness, there's so many failures we are talking about. And trust me, as we progress through this, I realize, yes, how my viewpoint and my thought process has changed over time, right? Like, so yes, just to let you know, there is a subtle, not a subtle, like a significant difference between being an agile coach and a coach, right? So I have spent a significant time of my career in IBM, and so I was also a blue core coach. It's a very um, niche, coaching platform, and there we talked about coaching only, not being an agile coach or so. So this question is related to coaching, or is it related to agile coaching?
Whatever you feel comfortable. Let's go with the coaching first.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. So if you ask me about coaching, right, it is very simple, very basic. You cannot coach someone who does not want to be coached, and it is so, so important to. It's not your failure. It's not the other person's failure. It's just not meant to be. You can only coach someone who is like who wants to be coached, right? That's the first and the basic. And second for me is the coaching that you do is for the other person, it's not for you. It is not about how good great coach DipaShree is. It's about my coachee, right? How great or good is my coachee, right? How it's not about also how great he is or she is. It's about how is it benefiting him. So it's all about the coachee, right? So this is very important. So whether I am a failure or a success doesn't matter when it comes to coaching, right? So whether I have failed or not, it's not about me. It's about the coachee. Has he or she gained that value from the session or not, right? So very important. Now coming to agile coaching. So agile coaching is different than coaching. So like I said, you can't coach someone out of fear unless the system supports their courage. Also, agile coaching is not about converting every individual. No, it's about aligning the ecosystem so change is possible and safe. So, why I say this is now as an agile coach, it is important that I work towards bringing that alignment in the ecosystem. If somebody is not able to, you know, adapt the ways of working, I should be able to coach him. Whether he's interested, not interested, doesn't matter. He has to be aligned, because that's how we are going to. So and there's a famous saying, right? In agile, we say we are as fast as the slowest point in the entire system. So if we look at it, so even if you have one single problem in your system, it will derail you from the accepted acceleration that you are expecting. So what I do, so if it comes to coaching, very important, somebody has to look up to me to be his or her coach. We go ahead with a contract, because it's very important to let them know they are in safe hands. Their data, their nothing would be shared outside, right? So that contracting needs to be there. And of course, then you have to leverage and talk to the person and understand what is his goal, so that you can define a model. And typically I use grow model, or like when it comes to coaching. That's the basic, effective, simple, and I like it. Yeah. So that's about it, right? But when it comes to agile coaching, I also use immunity to change framework to surface the hidden commitments, right? That is behind the resistant behaviors. So I leverage these kind of frameworks. I leverage a formal agreement between the team members on what each role would mean in this context of the transformation that we are in. Also, uh, very important as an agile coach to measure behavioral metrics, right? Not just delivery metrics. Delivery metrics will be there, it's important, that's where you, but also how my behaviors are happening, team maturity assessments, etc. Those are very, very important. uh, so you talked about the failure, right? So these are where my learnings actually, Sunant. Initially, when I started my role, I tried to coach people. I want to know everybody should be fit into that frame, right? Of an agile, perfect agile developer. No, it's not needed. That's not what my goal is. I'll go bonkers if I start managing 100 plus, team members to fit into that. Perfect. All we have to ensure as an agile coach is we are all aligning the ecosystem to achieve the value delivery that we are, right? So yes, I used to take things very personally. I used to have attachment to the results, right? That I need to fix XYZ person. No, I shifted my focus to protecting the psychological safety of the team, and which helped them to reestablish the boundaries respectfully. And of course, and that's what is important, right? Like you safeguard the team and not just individual and try fixing them. That's not the purpose. Yeah. I
Wonderful.
hope I answer your question. But
Yes, 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 yes. Wonderful, wonderful.
yeah.
Absolutely great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So next question is, so what is your like toughest cultural barrier which you have faced while implementing all
Mm,
this, Scrum and also, and what you have done to overcome that? That's also important
sure.
because you mentioned like you work with China, USA,
Mm-hmm.
India.
Mm-hmm.
Their mindset is totally different,
Right.
So
And you actually asked again a very tricky and very interesting question, because this is what we face, right? Like for example, like when it comes to culture, Indians just don't know how to say no, right? Don't you agree? I mean, I myself at times, even
no,
after I'm giving
no,
all this.
I don't agree. No, so I'm not
So
Indian
good,
now.
good. No, no, you're not
I've
an
learned
Indian.
it.
You're in
I've
you
I've
are you are in Netherlands, no?
I've learned it now how to say no. Honestly, I learn it honestly. It's difficult,
Correct,
but then it feels
correct.
so great to say no.
Empowering.
We got the power to say no. Yes.
So very important, right? And I think there are, I will not name, but there are organizations that spend millions to produce contents to understand the culture if you are about to visit a country, right? Like if you are going on a business visit, the companies actually provide you a dump what are the cultural things that you should be aware of when you go there. I know a lot of companies do that. So coming back to your question, right? So we got to understand when again, and it's all interrelated. So Nanda, I don't know if I'm being repetitive here, but whenever you want to bring about change, nobody likes it because you are taking away the control that they had. And obviously, and when we talk about no, we have to bring cultural change, you have to understand that that company or that team or that organization has been there for years and they have their own culture. You just cannot come as, you know, a new hire agile coach or scrum master and bring about that cultural change. It's not possible. So what do we do differently, right? And if a company or an organization has been there for so long, that means they also have a rich culture. You just cannot go and say, hey, I don't agree with your cultural stance. Think about it. If you have a new daughter-in-law entering a family and say, hey, your culture is not like mine and I don't like your culture, she's going to be shooed out the next day. Okay, you go back to your and this is in Indian context, right? Because we marry into families, etc. So similarly, right? So there was this very I will again not try to quote the example like the company and all, but just giving you context, it was a rigid hierarchical culture in the organization. Reason, it was from Southeast Asia. Obviously, they did not like agile or anything like that because they always thought, hey, my kind of ways of working is good. So instead, right, and I told this in your very first interview, like, session that we had, that whenever you go, whatever it happens, until and unless you are not part of the system yet, don't try to bring about any change. Never do that. You'll be seen as an alien. Never bring about any change. So I, instead of starting with scrum mechanics, I would say, because I first conducted a cultural agility assessment. Yeah. And this is based on the leadership circle data. And this helped me uh, recognize power distance, collectivism, and face saving behaviors. And this happens, right? So now what I did based on this assessment, I tried to align the agile values with the local values. For example, they focused a lot on discipline, they valued that. So instead of saying self organized team, they said, no, we got to be disciplined, right? So when you start saying the words that they understand or they that has been part of their culture, they feel more, they feel related, right? They feel heard, they feel as if okay, you are speaking their language. So so I worked a lot on adapting these languages, metaphors, right? Like for example, I did not say empowerment, fail fast, no, because they did not like that. They know they don't like failing. Okay, so if I say fail fast, they'll not get the essence but go by the word and they say, hey, why you are talking about failures? So rather, I started using terms like mastery through practice, protecting team's honor. You see the subtle difference I used. So it's not about, see, as a coach, I need to ensure my whosoever is hiring me is able to focus on value delivery. So whatever it takes to get there, right? So that's what I did, right? So as long as they don't see you as a threat, that okay, you are going to change their control span and all, this helped, right? Also because it was very like I said, hierarchical, so people were very fearful about giving feedbacks. Okay, so very easy, go for these anonymous retrospectives, so that they can just feed in the data. You don't have to take that data, show it to the world, blah blah blah, no, but try to gauge in what they are feeling. Okay, so these are few things I did, and trust me, these small little things only makes the big difference. And yeah, and they did. They had a very successful stuff. And very important, right? I always keep saying, right? The greatest agile blocker isn't a tool; it's identity threat. So it's not the framework. Everybody feels though agile is not going. I'll lose my identity. Who will be my project managers won't be there. This won't be there. My role will be taken. Now with AI, the same thing is happening, right? That identity threat. So, real transformation will always begin or will happen when we meet the culture where it is and we walk together towards where it can go. Not the other way, that challenging and letting them know, oh, you are doing it all wrong. No, you respect their culture, they'll, it has to be more inclusive, is what I would say.
Wonderful, Deepa. Thoroughly enjoying this session. But friends, we still have a lot of questions pending. But Deepa, I think we have reached today's time limit. So
Sure.
let's continue this series with part two, part three, and so many parts that
Sure,
definitely
no,
will
no
come soon.
problem at all. Yeah.
It's, I think, almost like 40, 50 minutes for this
Oh my
session.
goodness.
So that's, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Like time flies like anything. So, but then I think let's this is the right time to
Mhm.
end this session, and let's come up with part two and a lot of other parts later on. So
Sure.
thank you, friend, for joining us today's session, and we hope you found it helpful and informative. And if you enjoyed the session, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And we hope to see you in our next session very soon. Until then, take care. This is Sunan Sharma signing off along with Deepa. Thank you, everyone, and bye. Bye bye. Thank you, Deepa.
Bye bye.